Netzach, the fourth of the Sphira, of the... Netzach. So we're up to the fourth of the seven midot. This is the fourth of our exploration of personality. And Netzach literally means victory. It's used as a term to describe stamina and endurance. What Netzach literally means is to be to conquer and to be victorious. And in context of our seven midos, our seven primary personality aspects, Netzach is our ability to endure and our ability to push through any resistance. So when you think about endurance, every moment of endurance is a fight. There's something that's pushing back at that moment, saying to give up or to rest or to stop. And the endurance is to every moment by moment by moment overcome that and defeat it and conquer it. So Netzach is the ability within self to actually push through, to fight the fight. Now, it sits under Chesed, and if you go back to the chart that we've got in the introduction section, we've got the Chesed on the right, the Gvura on the left, and then we had Tiferes, which is a harmonious component which sits beneath the two of them in the middle. And then we've got Netzach, which sits under Chesed. Now, it is more Chesed oriented, which I'm going to explain in a second. But remember, this is coming after Tiferes, which means it's in context of an other, because we said Tiferes is all about focusing on the other. There's an empathy. And so it's already starting to focus on other. So it's how am I responding to the other action-wise? Whereas Chesed was how am I emotionally responding? This is how am I responding action-wise? So something is challenging me. Something is harnessing my interest. How am I going to respond to it? And so Netzach is I'm going to tackle it. I'm going to fight for it. I'm going to push through it. And so it's got if Tiferes was that mix of Chesed and Gvura, of kindness and strength, so Netzach has aspects of Gvura, which is this strength. But it also has the aspect of Chesed, which is how am I feeling about expressing my strength in this moment. So Netzach is I'm being engaged by something, and Gvura is the Gvura element within this is going to actually get me to fight against it, to push against it, to resist it. So Netzach is a very important reaction. And it actually, if we look at the table, it sits closer to where the kidneys are, where if you think about fight or flight, and impulsive reactions take place. If I ask you right now, stand up. So, stand up. Where did you feel the sudden energy burst to stand up? It wasn't in your head and it wasn't in your chest. It would have been in your stomach and lower part, where that's when you clench. Think about it, when you're experiencing anxiety, that is the part of the body that is really being engaged, that kidney stomach region. That's why we don't have butterflies in our hands, we have butterflies in our stomach. So Netzach is that push. Now, Netzach is an excellent quality to have a healthy dose of. It's every time something challenges us, it's the strength to push back. But too much Netzach may leave us fighting many, many fights on many, many different fronts. Because Netzach engages. Netzach is going to challenge and fight back. And so if there are lots of things that are drawing our attention, we're going to be fighting whether the fight is a fight or whether the fight is working on a good cause. You can't work on an infinite number of causes at the same time. You can't fight many fronts on the same time. You can't have stamina on many, many fronts. So too much Netzach can actually result in a very, very distracted lifestyle and a person who's spread too thin. Too little Netzach is being bowled over by challenge, being bowled over by anything that really is going to start overwhelming us or making us feel like we don't have the strength. Hide literally is Hod. Hod is humility, and it's the fifth of our midos. And so, being the fifth, if Netzach sat under Chesed, Hod sits under Gevura. So, what is humility? And if it's sitting on the Gevura side, it means that there's a high level of restraint in there, because we said Gevura is that strength. And like Netzach, it's coming after Tiferes. So it's going to be a response in context of something. So as Netzach was a response of fighting, a response of being victorious, it's a response of overcoming challenge. Hod is a response to the cause. So it's other-centered in a very profound way. So it's using Gevura to create that distance, to see what the cause is, and to hold one's own ego at bay, which is what we call humility. So it's about the cause, and it is the humility of holding ego back. It is the humility to sublimate our energy according to that which needs to be done or not done. Now, humility is a very, very complex idea in society. What is the definition of humility? And Hod does not say humility is silence. Hod does not say humility is to be a rollover. Humility is to put one's ego aside, to check the ego in, so that we are focused and dedicated to that which must be achieved. And if that's what's being asked of me, then it's I that will achieve it. And if it's something that needs to be done and I can orchestrate or coordinate or participate, then that's what will happen. It's the contribution of money, the contribution of energy, what have you. It is the contribution of self without taking self into account. It's about the other. Now, Hod, humility, must not exist in isolation, because when there is too much humility, a person becomes trodden on. They're constantly giving themselves up. It's a very dangerous quality, but where you're always giving yourself up for something else, where you're always holding the ego back and not considering self in context of, and it's just in context of the goal, in context of that which must be achieved, that is a humility that's gone too far. Of course, the absence of Hod is going to be a person that is not considering anything outside of self and is not considering what is here to be achieved. So the absence of Hod is very obvious, but sometimes we actually admire unhealthily an overdose of Hod. Yesod. Yesod is an interesting one. It's the sixth of our spheros, and Yesod means foundation. But in context of the midos, it's so much more sophisticated than this word foundation. But it is a foundation in that it's the foundation on which anything that is going to emerge in our expression of self, our expression within a context, is going to be built on top of Yesod. So it very much is a foundation, but it's not a foundation in a more classic way of thinking about a concept being a foundation. It is the foundation on which everything is built. Yesod is actually very, very linked to connection, in that in order to communicate, in order to connect, in order to contribute, there has to be a point of connection. Now, there is the connection between self and other, and then there is the connection between the plan, the emotions, the responses, and engaging the body to actually deliver on that. So think about you want to give a speech, so you've prepared the ideas and you're emotionally all set, and you've got the words, you've got the general themes. Yesod is to bring that together in a way that you're going to be able to now engage with active speech. Now, it's not the actual speaking, it's bringing that together. And so there's the consideration of the other in how does the other need to receive the message, whether the message is a hug, whether the message is donation, whether the message is a speech, whether the message is to hold back, whatever the message is, to engage with self and to process actually the chesed, gvura, tiferes, netzach, and hod, the 5 elements that have come prior to Yesod, and to process them into a finished package of which the product of our expression is going to be expressed. So it's very much, Yesod sits under Tiferes, it's very much, again, other-centered. So it's not so much having a lot of Yesod or a lack of Yesod as much as how strong is our Yesod capacity. When we think about Yesod, we are thinking about that moment before the performance. So if we're talking about a race, there's been all the training before the actual race begins. Yesod is how we're going to launch into that first step. And so it's taking all that training and processing it into this moment that's about to emerge into an action. A Yesod deficiency is going to manifest in choking, in not being able to bring that together. A Yesod deficiency may very well not be considering. We've gone beyond the consideration of what the other may need in this moment, but the Yesod is also taking into account how should that behavior come out. So you may want to give something to someone in moderation or hold back from someone, but then how is that going to be actually expressed? How is that going to manifest into a behavior? That all takes place in Yesod. So Yesod is very much the ability to take the different feelings and reactionary behaviors in any situation and bring them together into a single behavior. So Yesod is when one wants to nurture Yesod, there will be a work on empathy, and there will also be a work on understanding one's own message and how one wants to communicate that message. Malchus. Malchus means kingship, the empire, the malucha. It's a very, very strange word when we're thinking about emotional and impulsive reactions to a situation. Malchus is the product. It is the 7th of the 7 middos. It is the 10th of the 10 spheros. It is the point of delivery. Malchus is actually not so much a behavior as much as it is the moment of delivery of a behavior or a feeling or an emotion or an action. You can have all the thoughts and all the feelings and all the planning of what needs to be done. And you can even open your mouth, but there's a certain lack of belief or ownership of the moment to deliver, to actualize that which needs to be actualized in this moment. Whether the actualization is silence or the actualization is something productive and expressive. It's the actualization. And to actualize something is to own it, is to be the master, is to be the king of this momentary empire. To have that confidence in the moment that it is now that I need to act and I will act and this is the action which I'm going to deliver. Malchus is the delivery. So you begin the presentation, you begin the contribution, or you begin to hold back and it goes awry. It just doesn't work. That is because there's something lacking in the actualization activity, the Malchus. So the reason why Malchus is called kingship is because what is a king? Remember, in Kabbalah, often the monarchy is used as a very powerful metaphor. What is a king? A king is the master of the space and can do as he wishes in that space and does or does not do as he wishes because it is his space to rule. So Malchus is the doing. So whereas Yesod was the point of where we brought all the ideas and the feelings to a point of action, Malchus is the actual delivery of it, the product itself. Malchus is actually something that a lot of people struggle with. They don't struggle with the logic, and they don't struggle with the feelings or even the reaction. But when it comes to that point of delivery, there may be a flaw. Now, the flaw could be because there's been an overcooking or undercooking of an emotion or a planning stage or a reaction. And so therefore that which comes out is off. For example, if as a father, if I'm angry and upset at something that my child has done, and I have this complete overreaction, like it's 8 o'clock at night and they haven't gone to bed yet, and I just blow up, that is a malchus that's completely off. But it could be that I want to tell my child, I know has to go to bed and they have to be in bed, and I love them, but I feel this need to service them, but on the other hand, this is going to require tough love, and I feel it. I'm all ready to open my mouth, and I open my mouth, and it just comes out wrong. And that's because in that moment, whatever is happening in my delivery is off. It's not that my planning was off, it's my owning of the moment. In this moment, I wasn't practicing malchus. I wasn't practicing ownership of this action. And as a result, the action was no longer being guided by me, but it was being guided by forces outside of me. So malchus is another challenging one to work on, and it requires putting oneself in a position where you have to act it. Pretend. And so it's talking through a situation and acting it out. Yesod might help when you talk through a situation in your mind. Yesod might help clarify what it is you're going to say. But malchus is where you actually get up in that empty auditorium or before walking through the house door, and you just go through in an active way, not just in your mind. You go through the motions that you're about to practice, and you work out, is that right? Because that's your dummy malchus run. So malchus is being the master and the king of the action, and ensuring that the product of your chesed, gvura, tiferes, netzach, hod yesod is actually going to hit the mark in the way that you intend that it should. So that's the seven midos. Chesed being expansion and extension and kindness, Gvura being strength and withholding, Tiferes being the harmonious balance and the beautiful balance of those two in context of other. Netzach is how I'm going to deal, how I'm going to proactively act on whatever my Tiferes is telling me, and how I'm going to deal with the things that obstruct me, and how I'm going to deal with the cause at hand. Hod is that which needs to be done. It's the humbling of self to stay focused on what is the cause at hand. And Yesod is bringing all that together, so now I have my behavior ready to go, and Malchus is the delivery. We all struggle. We all have times that we are overly, we're overly endowed with one of those midos or some of those midos inappropriately, and there are always going to be times that we're weak and we're short. And throughout life, we explore these seven midos, and we look for where is it being overly represented in our personality, or where is it being underrepresented, and to work on harnessing or strengthening appropriately those seven behavioral mannerisms. Our personality, if you think about it, is the culmination of all of them. So think about what your personality is, what's your reputation, what do people know you as, and different people know you in different ways, and they will be knowing different aspects of your midos in different situations. And think about what are the things people tell you, what's the feedback you receive, and what's the feedback you give yourself, and identify in others what's the feedback, and then identify which of the midos is the most contributing there. And if you really want to go full-on psycho-spiritual, you'll not only walk away with these seven primary emotions, but you'll actually walk into how each of the seven can be found in each of the seven. So it's actually a system of 7 by 7. Each of these midos has 7 subcomponents of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod Yesod, Malchus within. Good luck with that self-analysis, And I hope that as a result, we're all actually a better version of ourselves come the end of this process of working on personality.